happy fantasy football managers. If you're watching, if you're listening, you're probably winning, right? You're probably happy. If you are losing, we appreciate you being here. You're a good sport. I don't really want to be here. I know I'm going to lose some leagues, but we welcome you to Fantasy Football Today, presented by BetMGM, the sportsbook born in Vegas. It's Adam Azer with Jamie Eisenberg and Heath Cummings here on Sunday night, and we are recapping the action. Would you like some wacky stats from Week 16? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. Jerome Ford now has 4 carries of more than 60 yards in his career. That is so impressive.
Yeah.
Did anybody in the NFC North?
No, nobody had one.
Well, you got one game still to go.
Oh, no, that's not true. Taylor did. Barkley, did he go for 60?
Barkley
Close.
did. Taylor did. But you said it was you were comparing him to the NFC North.
I was comparing him to the 4 starting running backs in the NFC North. Like Josh Jacobs has not had 4 carries of. I don't know if he's had any of 60 yards. It's really impressive, and it was part of a good day for Jerome Ford. All right, number 2, wacky stat. Brock Purdy led his team in rushing with 26 yards. Not all waiver wire running backs are equal. James Cook led his team in receiving with 26 yards.
And
And
maybe touch the ball more than 12 times a game. Like, come on, what are they doing?
this one might be the wackiest. Dorian Thompson-Robinson threw for more yards than Josh Allen today.
And Jalen Hurts.
Well, 157 to 154. It's crazy. And Heath, you and I were talking at the very end of FFT Express. We went into this week kind of nervous about the elite quarterbacks, right? Lamar Jackson, bad history against Pittsburgh. He scores over 25 points. He has his best game against Pittsburgh ever. Joe Burrow, bad history against Cleveland. He scores about 27 points. Jaden Daniels is facing this Eagles defense. He scores 44, 45 points. Who else was it? Jared Goff, freezing cold weather at Chicago, or whatever it was, outdoors in December. Huge game for him. And then the 2 that were like the no-brainers were Hurts and Allen. But yeah, what do you think of the quarterback play? Really just a great day for offense today.
It was the Bills game was just weird. New England completely dominated time of possession the first third of that game. I think Josh Allen and the Bills had 11 yards in the first quarter and like 3 possessions in the whole first half. And Hurts obviously got hurt. So basically, and you didn't even mention Mahomes because we don't consider him an elite quarterback anymore. But he scored 25 fantasy points and took off running like to start the game against the Texans. The ankle was no concern. Everything we worried about, there was no reason to worry.
Yeah, pretty much.
And maybe that's a good time to say, like, sometimes people speculate as to why we might be a couple minutes later than they're expected. I thought Eric had a very good message in the chat. Adam is holding the ladder for his wife to go into the attic to check on the noise.
No, as you all can tell, I'm not at home. I am in the Stamford office because my Wi-Fi is out for the second straight weekend, and it did not come back in time this time. But anyway, sorry if I look a little strange today. All right, Jamie, who's a big winner for you today?
Big winner for me, what I sent you, Chuba Hubbard. Great day for him.
Yeah, it was a great day. Probably he's not good enough to be the number 1 running back today because Jonathan Taylor takes that. I think Taylor scored the 3rd most fantasy points of any running back in a game this year. But Chuba Hubbard, 32 fantasy points, 25 carries, 4 catches, 165 total yards, 2 touchdowns, game winner in overtime. What do you have to say about him?
I think we had a little bit of concern, right, coming into the game because he wasn't great last week. And this Arizona run defense is awful. And I would not be surprised, given the fact of what the Rams have done on the road the last 2 games, playing in bad weather, that they go home against a Cardinals team next week that just got eliminated from playoff contention, that they absolutely destroy them. Not that Kyren Williams was not expected to have a good game, or you would be sitting him in any capacity, but he may absolutely go nuclear.
Heath, who's the biggest loser this week?
Oh, they were like as great of a day as there was for offense. There were a few, and I think Jerry Jeudy, aka the Cleveland Browns wide receivers, everything went pretty much like we expected with Dorian Thompson-Robinson in terms of passing. And to make things even worse, David Njoku came back and was just himself. Didn't seem to be impacted that much by the quarterback change. Jerome Ford was awesome, but the wide receivers have been completely nerfed by the absence of Jameis Winston.
What do you think they do next week? Did Stefanski already announce it or no?
Yes, he said if he's healthy, because Dorian Thompson-Robinson does have an injury, a hamstring or something like that, he will start. He plans to start him if he's healthy against the Dolphins.
So they're in tank mode.
It's so strange. Like, it doesn't even make sense. He turns the ball over too. What does he do better than
Well,
Jameis?
Jameis has a better chance to win a game.
Yeah, right. I mean, but I don't know that these coaches. I understand what you're saying, but I don't know that these coaches are thinking that way. Dorian Thompson.
Well, if they were, the Raiders would not have won today. I mean, that was the dumbest thing ever.
Not for me. It was the great day. However, I do think it's pretty likely that the Eagles will not have anything to play for in Week 18. It seems like that's the
They
most
lost.
likely
They lost the chance at the 1 seed today.
Oh, they're eliminated from the 1 seed?
Well, if
No.
they have three conference losses, and the Lions and Vikings play each other head to head. So whoever loses, if either one lose next week and still lose the following week, the Lions losses. The Lions lost to the Bills, and I forget who else, but that's an AFC loss. And the Vikings also lost an AFC game.
So they're out of the 1 seed.
I'm pretty sure. We were trying to figure this out
I
today.
think you're right.
I'm almost certain that the Eagles would lose the tiebreakers to get the 1 seed.
Yeah, so they're not going to have any. If they win next week, they lock up the division and they have nothing to play for.
Because both teams can't. Both the Vikings and Lions can't lose out.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Both the Vikings and Lions can't lose out, and they both have AFC losses.
How about that Week 18 Minnesota-Detroit game? That could be fantastic. All right.
I'll tell you what. I know we got a lot of football left, but I'm so fascinated by what the Vikings are going to do with Sam Darnold.
Bro, you would have been. I mean, you guys have a much, better relationship with Bryant McFadden, BMAC, than I do. Former Steelers cornerback, CBS Sports contributor. We had such a funny argument. He was saying, as a Steelers fan, as a Steeler, he wasn't saying it. He was saying that the Steelers would rather play at home against Baltimore in the first round of the playoffs than on the road at Houston. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I don't care where the game is. Nobody wants to play Baltimore ahead of Houston. But it's a fun time to talk about these things and all these scenarios right now. Because if the Steelers don't win the division, it works out for them.
The interesting path in the playoffs is a team you don't really want to see, I think, right now, is the Rams. And if it works out well for them, they're going to get a home playoff game if they win the West. They could potentially go on the road to play the Lions or the Vikings. So they're staying indoors. And with the way Detroit's defense looks right now, and Minnesota, I know they're have a great season, but I think the Rams could beat them. Yeah. Like they could make it to the NFC Championship game just based on staying indoors. Like, I think they go outdoors, they could be in trouble. But
I could be wrong about this though. But on the AFC side, the Steelers or Ravens, whichever team does not win the division, is going to end up in the 5 seed facing the Texans on the road,
unless they lose their next 2.
Yeah, that's possible. But in all likelihood, they'll be the 5.
Because the Steelers play the Chiefs and the Bengals. Like, they could very easily go to 10-7 and be the 6 or 7 seed.
And then they'd play the Ravens in that case.
Or the Bills.
Or the Bills, yeah. All right, a lot to be determined. All right, anyway, the holiday season is here. You still got a little bit of time to get that perfect gift for your fantasy football champion, whether you're celebrating or making fun of someone who came in last place. Go to Fantasy Football Today's new fan shop powered by ShopSense. It has everything you need from trophies to t-shirts, the gear to make your league unforgettable. And that's not it. If you need the gift for the ultimate fan or looking to upgrade your fan cave, we've got that at shop.cbssports.com/fantasy. You can go to shop.cbssports.com/fantasy or scan the QR code or check the link in the episode description. Also, please vote for Fantasy Football Today at sportspodcastgroup.com. Click on Vote Now. We're in the fantasy betting and gaming category. Please vote for Fantasy Football Today. It will seriously take about 30 seconds, and we'd really appreciate it. Let's get another win. Let's go back-to-back. sportspodcastgroup.com. News and notes. So I already told you, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, if he's healthy, he will start next week against Miami. Josh Allen hurt his elbow. He hurt something every week. He's fine. All right, James Conner and Ken Walker both left with injuries, and we pretty much know what we're doing with the Seattle situation. But, Jamie, what do you think about the Arizona situation? They're at the Rams next week. You had Trey Benson were waiting to see what would happen if James Conner got hurt, and he was inactive today with an injury. You had Michael Carter in there. Amari DiMercado is on IR. So you're going to be writing the waiver wire column. What are you going to be writing about for the Cardinals?
I mean, first off, you want to hope Trey Benson's healthy because then he would step into the starting role, you assume, and get an opportunity to showcase what he's capable of doing if Connor doesn't play. But Michael Carter would be the next guy up. And so he's going to be, someone who's going to be very popular on the waiver wire as well. So we're looking at a situation where it's not going to be easy against the Rams. Again, Cardinals anytime you see these teams get eliminated from the playoffs, like I wonder how much that played into the 49ers, knowing that when they kicked off, they were eliminated from the playoffs and they struggled against Miami, for example. So going to be a tough game for the Cardinals all the way around. Desperate situation. Trey Benson would be the priority if healthy. Michael Carter is the fallback option.
All right. More news items for you. Justice Hill left with a concussion. And Tank Dell with the dislocated kneecap.
What a
horrible,
awful situation.
Awful.
T. Higgins left with an ankle injury, but he came back. Also, if you're watching the show, you might notice that I have no idea where my camera is, and I keep looking at the wrong thing. So you can laugh along at me.
It's right in front of your face.
Yeah, George Pickens could play this week. See, I'm used to my old one, and I keep looking like over there. George Pickens could play this week. They're playing Christmas Day against Kansas City. And Drake London left with. Does anybody have an update on Drake London? He has a hamstring injury, but he played most of the snaps.
I didn't see if he came back in the game because I would guess they were probably being cautious with it. What's crazy is we got a practice report from the Steelers today. I was like, what?
I know. Dude, next week is so weird. This upcoming week.
There's 3 games on Saturday.
There's 9 games on Sunday, and 2 of them are at 4:00. We've got a Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays, a Thursday, 3 Saturdays, a Sunday.
I've been tasked with trying to get start sit done by Tuesday, which will be the earliest I've ever written in my life.
Oh my gosh. Drake London, Raheem Morris said he does not think it is serious. Okay, more news items. That's about it. You have
quarterback situation.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts. I'm sorry, I didn't say that one. That's obviously the big one.
Well, Hurts, not only is he injured, and Sirianni did not give an update on this. Apparently, Kenny Pickett also injured his ribs at the end of the game, so they may be down to their third quarterback, who I do not know who that is.
All right, they got Dallas at home next week, one of those 4:00 games on Sunday, and the Cardinals. I'll mention the Cardinals were playing without their starting left tackle. Then they lost their starting right tackle during the game. So
no, their starting center didn't play either.
Oh wow! So there you could be
both
talking
centers
about,
got ruled out before the game for illnesses.
Oh, for illnesses! Wow.
Panthers and Cardinals.
Everyone's sick, man. Everyone's sick right now. Okay, that's it for the injuries. Let's go to. I'll do a quick segment here. We did this one last week, but of course he did this on my bench. How about Deebo Samuel? 40% started, 7 catches, 96 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets, 5 carries for 25 yards at Miami. Gets Detroit next week. Jamie, is he back? Is Deebo back?
Again, eliminated team. We'll see, what their motivation is to, play. I'm sure they're going to want to play spoiler after, knowing that Detroit was a big competitor of theirs, for last season in the NFC Championship game. So I think he's going to be in the number 3 receiver range, so you'll feel a little bit more confident in him. And look, we know they tried to get him going last week. He also nearly had a play to get them down inside the 5 that was overturned by penalty. So he could have had an even bigger day. He looked good. He really did, and it's a shame that it took this long in the season for him to start playing like the guy that we hoped he would be all season long.
DK Metcalf, Heath. Of course he did this on my bench, although it wasn't really that great. 3 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. Are you encouraged by this for DK Metcalf?
It was all in the first half, right?
Most, if not all.
I'm not sure he did anything late in that game. They were all going to JSN. So I'm not going to say. I thought I was going to be encouraged. I almost changed him to one of the winners, but I didn't want to jinx him for the rest of the game. And then it turns out he didn't do anything the rest of the game anyway. I think 3 for 57 and a touchdown. Like, if you had to start him, you feel fortunate, but it shouldn't make you feel any better about what we've seen, because it's really the same thing we've seen for 6 weeks now. He just happened to get it in the end zone.
Tyrone Tracy Jr. I had in this category. He ended up with a solid game. He caught a touchdown.
We had him ranked as a starter, didn't we? People didn't start.
He was only started. He was only started in 39% of leagues. I think people gave up on. Yeah,
it's hard to judge.
I know it is. Yeah, I know it is. I was going to say that. My gut is people were kind of sick of Tyrone Tracy and we're over him. So whatever. I don't know that he did that much to quell the fears. I mean, catching a touchdown, this team is horrible, obviously.
The thing that I said during the week was like the reason that I was sticking with Tyrone Tracy was because he had the 10 targets in the last 2 games. He had 4 targets in this game. He made a great catch. Like the touchdown was a great catch. He's very good as a pass catcher. Had another 4 catches. I'm going to go into next week expecting he's going to see 5 targets. That's going to make him a starting running back for me in PPR. And the 7 carries don't feel good, but there were only 11 running back rush attempts in this game. Just 55 offensive plays from the Giants. So I feel pretty good about Tyrone Tracy. I'm starting.
You also just look at what happened to the Colts against the Titans. And I think you can assume there's going to be a lot of targets once again for Tracy. So I had him ranked as a low end number 2 running back. I'm sure Heath probably had him a little higher in his rankings. I think, in PPR, I think you could feel comfortable with him as a low end starter because, look, the touchdown wasn't a broken play. It was wide open in the back of the end zone. Drew Lock hit him in Drew Lock fashion, nearly overthrew him. So it's just a matter of this offense is going to struggle.
All right. And that's a quick segment there. We'll do some winners and losers in a second. If you haven't signed up yet for the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FANTASY. All right. You can do it. Just because football's almost over doesn't mean you can't be doing this. You're going to get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. So here's how it works. You download the BetMGM app and you sign up and use the bonus code FANTASY. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. And if your bet loses, you're going to receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Just make sure that you use the bonus code FANTASY when you sign up. Quick break. Back with winners and losers after this. All right, let's get to our winners and losers. Jamie, you got Jamison Williams, Chuba Hubbard, and Anthony Richardson. Jamison Williams with 5 catches. This probably should have been. Of course, he does this on my bench. 5 catches, 143 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets. Great performance for him. And honestly, you saw the big play. His ADOT was only 12 or 13 yards. So he was getting a lot of non-deep balls, which is nice to see. What do you think about Jamison?
I was dead wrong on Goff playing this great outdoors. I didn't say to sit him, but I did say to sit Jamison Williams because his track record on the road this year was not great, and that was some indoor games, and he didn't play in the Packers game outdoors. So this is his first game outdoors of the year, and he was a monster. And look, the Bears are terrible. It wasn't really about the matchup at all. It was just a matter of could the Lions offense continue to do this? And the thing about this Lions team right now, with all the injuries on defense, is they're going to have to outscore teams to be successful. And they clearly have the ability to do it. And this was a classic game of play against the team that stinks and do basically whatever you want it to do. And that's, Laporta had a nice catch for the touchdown. Obviously, Amara St. Brown made some big plays. And then Jamison Williams with the big play over the top. So made me look stupid for saying to sit him, and just shows you that he is still got the ability to be one of the better receivers in the league and better fantasy receivers as well when he gets targets.
And then Anthony Richardson, going to be a top 10 quarterback next week against the Giants?
My early rankings, he's in the top 6. I mean, there's just a great opportunity here against a bad defense to continue to do what he did this week. I thought he would have played. I thought he would play well last week. He obviously did not. I thought he'd play well this week. He clearly did. When he's got good matchups, he's got the ability to be, such a difference maker. And that's what we have next week against the Giants. So they still are in playoff contention. We keep talking about maybe the Bengals get in. Well, right now the Colts are ahead of the Bengals. So if the Bengals beat the Broncos and the Colts win out, which is clearly on the table for them, then they could somehow sneak into the playoffs, and Richardson's got an opportunity to help lead the way. So good for him to bounce back after a disappointing performance last week and beat up on a bad defense.
Anthony Richardson is not even going to be a top 12 quarterback this week. It was such a good week for quarterbacks. And then there were guys who didn't even really play all that well, like Brock Purdy outscored Anthony Richardson. He scored over 24 fantasy points. Geno Smith played all right. He was up there. Caleb Williams scored 26 fantasy points. Kyler Murray and Anthony Richardson basically had the same amount of fantasy points, and they're both outside the top 12. They scored about 22. And Kyler did not play particularly well from what I
Tyler
saw.
had one of the worst interceptions I've ever seen, where he's rolling right,
Yeah.
nearly ran past the line of scrimmage. He had Trey McBride so wide. The more wide open Trey McBride is, the more he misses him. And so he's wide open on the sideline by himself. He could have been standing there picking his nose for all he wanted to. And he threw it down the field right to a Panthers defender. It was just awful.
Can we make an elite team? The elite players who were horrible this week team, Josh Allen and Trey McBride, come to mind. I don't know, like Joe Mixon.
Another running back. Who would it be?
It's not so easy, but I just thinking about Trey McBride as you finally faced him this week. Good for you. But who else? Who was bad this week? Jerry Jeudy. Is he on the team?
Elite.
I mean, he's been elite. Yeah, he counts.
He's been amazing lately. Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp scored 5 fantasy points.
Breece Hall, I guess.
No, Breece had a bunch of catches.
Oh yeah.
Who's our second running back?
I'll tell you.
Brian Robinson Jr. I don't know. No, he's not
Pollard.
elite. Pollard? Yeah, Pollard was bad.
Both aren't really elite, though, right?
No, not quite. Brian Robinson Jr. was so bad.
You got a lot of guys in this category. So you got Pacheco and ETN and Brian Robinson and Pollard, all under.
Yeah,
10
it's hard to
splits.
get an RB2 there.
Yeah.
What about Chase Brown?
Running back by committee.
Oh, Chase Brown. Yeah, he wasn't horrible, but it was a good week to face Chase Brown. That's for sure. 13 fantasy points for him. Worst game in a long time.
Who are the receivers? Cooper Kupp, you said?
Cooper Kupp and Jerry Jeudy would be for me.
Oh, we got to find a third one.
Okay, that shouldn't be too hard.
Trey McBride and Kelsey. Well, Kelsey's not elite anymore either, but
no, Kelsey's a must start, no doubt about it. That's a good one. Yeah, we can put him in flex.
He was awful.
Cortland Sutton, maybe?
Sutton got you 10.
Marvin Harrison? Jacoby Myers?
Yeah. Garrett Wilson, maybe?
Well, Wilson was better than...
he wasn't bad enough.
I think it's got to be maybe Marvin Harrison.
Ooh, Xavier Hutchinson had a bad game.
Wide receivers who were terrible. Khalil Shakir would definitely be on the team.
Oh, yeah.
Dropped 2 touchdowns. He never drops anything.
All right. But how about that? How about that Bills DST touchdown? What a strange play that was.
I was facing Dave in the YOLO League, and I think it was Russo that ran a circle around the ball in the end zone before somebody else came up and fell on it for the touchdown.
He just said that. I'm like, pick it up. Pick it up.
Yeah, Dave Russo.
All right, Heath's winners. Jerome Ford, 51% started, 91% rostered. Jonathan Taylor. Dave wanted me to. Well, no, he didn't ask me to do this, but I'm going to give him a shout out because he loved Taylor. He predicted a big game for him today. Everybody liked him, but 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Okonkwo. So interesting list here: Ford, Taylor, Okonkwo.
So Taylor's short but sweet. Just a reminder that he is one of the elite running backs in the NFL, and even when he's not getting targets, even when he's not been good lately, even when he knocks you out of the playoffs because he dropped the ball on the 1-yard line, he's still a must-start running back if you have him, and he didn't knock you out of the playoffs because he dropped it at the 1-yard line. It was me, it's me and Jamie, I think both lost leagues because of that. Chig's probably the most interesting one because we saw this massive game from him when Rudolph took over for Levis last week, and then he gets 11 targets this week, catches 9 of them for 81 yards. Then he gets to face Jacksonville in the fantasy championships. I still fondly remember Devin Aromashodu because he won me a championship with 2 games out of nowhere back in 2009 for the Bears. Okonkwo might add his name to that list this year.
He's going to be one of these guys that has another strong game, and we're going to either get fooled by him next year.
Yes.
Because, look, you go back to the combine. He was the fastest tight end that year coming out. I spoke to him that offseason. I was so excited about him. This was going into 2023. So excited about his potential because, they didn't have a lot of high-end weapons and thought, okay, he's going to be featured in this offense. Was not. This year, they tried to replace him. They drafted another tight end that they liked. And you see what his upside is. He's an athletic freak. He can do a lot of different things in this offense if they give him the ball. And hopefully this is maybe unlocking his potential that you'll probably draft him, if you do, as a tight end 2 next year. But given targets, who knows? And they're going to most likely have a new quarterback.
All right. And the losers, Heath's losers are Jerry Jeudy, who we talked about. You had Zach Charbonnet. We're going to take him off the list.
Yeah.
Can we throw Patrick Taylor on there maybe?
Oh, yeah.
And Garrett Wilson.
Like, we talked about this with Patrick Taylor, though. It's like it's not the same thing. Isaac Guerrero was a guy they drafted last year who was one of the most athletic running backs in NFL Combine history, maybe the most athletic. Patrick Taylor was a fourth-year player who'd never been fantasy relevant and doesn't look like he's fantasy relevant, even when everybody in front of him gets hurt. I can't imagine feeling confident starting him, even if Guerendo's out again next week. The Garrett Wilson one's super frustrating because this was a game where Rodgers threw 42 passes and Wilson had the same number of targets as Tyler Conklin. And Breece Hall got back in, like Breece Hall seemed to be maybe more closer to 100%. So he was back involved in the passing game. And Alan Lazard's there now, and he had 5 targets. Like, it's just Devontae Adams is a clear number 1 wide receiver in this offense, and everybody else is fighting for scraps.
Yeah, I just want to say this about Taylor. There's no chance I'm starting him or anything like that, but he played most of the snaps. I don't have the percentages, but he played like 80-something% of the snaps, I think. He was the only running back that was really involved. I mean, not counting Juszczyk or anything, but he was the only running back. So if you had told me, I'm looking at it now, they had 61 offensive snaps. He played 48 of them. I would have expected a much better game from Taylor, but he only had 8 carries and he had 5 targets and 1 catch for 1 yard. So it's
also
like,
should have cost them an interception too.
What's that?
He should have cost them an interception. He had a ball bounce off of his hands that Dolphins defensive lineman pinned the ball to the ground. His helmet popped off. Jones, I don't know his first name, but helmet popped off.
Yeah,
and he like almost got murdered. But it was a bad drop by Taylor. I wonder if if you're the 49ers and Guerrero doesn't play next week, do they maybe give Abanikanda a chance to see what they have there, or even Keyshawn Vaughn? Because Taylor, look, he did what he didn't do what they needed him to do, but he played in a tough spot. And you've talked about this in terms of the Dolphins' run defense and how good they've been in the second half of the season. So this wasn't going to be an easy matchup unless he scored. Next week again, they're eliminated. So hopefully Guerendo's back, but if he's not, you wonder what to do.
Who do they have next week?
Lions.
Right. Okay. And then Jamie's losers were Aaron Rodgers, scored about 14 points against the Rams on 42 pass attempts. Cooper Kupp, 3 catches, 24 yards on 3 targets. And Tony Pollard, who had 8 carries for 35 yards and 2 catches for 5 yards. And Tajay Spears, man, these huge games and nobody's starting them.
Yep.
But okay, so you got Rodgers, Kupp, and Pollard.
So Rodgers, I was nervous about coming into this game just because he did what he did last week against the Jacksonville Jaguar defense that we know is bad. And this Rams defense, I said it during the week. They got beat up by Josh Allen. They had done a great job against Jalen. They did a good job in limiting the production for Jalen Hurts. They did a good job in limiting the production for Brock Purdy. Good defense, bad defense. We were going to find out. The weather did not help the conditions, but this is just, I think, what Rodgers is still capable of on a downside. Like you were to say 40 some odd pass attempts, you'll sign up for that all day long because he had been playing better. The coaching staff talking about that he looked healthier and feeling like himself. Now he missed some throws where Devontae Adams was open. I didn't watch the game closely yet, so I go back and watch. But the few times I looked up, like he had Adams on a couple passes that I saw he clearly missed. He got a little bit banged up in the game also, but he's just flawed. I mean, you got a 40-year-old guy with an Achilles in bad weather. Now we'll see what happens next week against a Bills defense that just gave up 3 total touchdowns to Drake May, and May looked okay at times throwing the ball. I can't imagine many people are going to trust Aaron Rodgers though if you did survive and get your fantasy championship.
All right, and then Pollard. The thing about Pollard was this game was a blowout at halftime, and it was a blowout at like maybe in the third quarter, and then there was a furious rally for the Titans, but they were trailing. He actually had 6 carries in the first. Like he basically got the work in the first half. Then the game script was terrible. Next week they're at Jacksonville. So do you think we can go back to Tony Pollard, or just can't trust this guy? He's too hurt?
So I think depending on what the practice reports are, you'll feel more comfortable if he's able to get some semblance of work in at all during the week. But the matchup is very good. So I think if you're looking at it from the standpoint of can you trust him?
How do you drop that ball, Jamie?
I don't know. I don't know.
Oh, Jay, it's Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, don't throw the Sterling Shepard.
Stop Jamie in his tracks.
Well, when I saw your reaction, I knew something bad happened. And on fourth down, no less. I think for the third down.
Fourth.
I think
It's a big game for the Falcons, right?
Huh?
This is a big game for the Falcons.
Huge game for the Falcons. I think it's a huge game for the Cowboys. They're still alive. Where are we?
Tony Pollard. Trust him next week.
I think depending on what your situation, what your team looks like. Like again, I did my early running back rankings, and he's around running back 20. So.
Okay, and you said Cooper Kupp is another loser. Very quiet day for Matthew Stafford.
Very quiet day, and I will go back to Cooper Kupp next week, simply because this is the type of game that they're going to bounce back. This is 2 bad games on the road in bad weather. Going back home against the Cardinals. Cardinals are clearly, thinking about Cabo at this point. And there's a big chance here for the Rams to have a huge blowout victory at home.
I do want to apologize to the casual Cowboys fans who just got a glimmer of hope because Jamie said they were still alive, because the Cowboys are very, very dead.
Oh, they got eliminated today. You're right.
Yeah. I feel bad for that guy. It's like, oh, we got a chance.
Also, Jamie doesn't know where the Cardinals are going on vacation. They could be going anywhere. They're not necessarily going to Cabo.
It's true.
All right. So how about
in a matter of seconds?
How about a look at the top 5 at each position today? And quarterback number 1 is Jaden Daniels at 44 points. Jared Goff 2.
You remember some of the questions we got this morning about Jaden Daniels?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of it was like Kyler Murray or this guy. So anyway.
We got the Michael Penix or Jaden Daniels?
Oh, I don't remember that one specifically, but Daniels, Goff, Bryce Young, 30 points. Sam Darnold, 28 points, and Joe Burrow, 27. Kind of feels like there should be more big scorers, but only one quarterback with more than 31 points, but a lot with 25 or more. I think
that Burrow one was weird too.
Why is that?
That last touchdown they threw.
Did Chase?
Yeah.
On second down with a minute 45 left.
On a free play. Yeah, I don't know if they do that if not for a free play.
But you also see what he the fumble he took at the goal line?
Oh, yeah. That's crazy. Yeah, that was a roller coaster if you had Burrow. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's not much to say here unless you want to talk about Bryce Young, Sam Darnold.
I mean, Darnold, I think you're just starting regardless at this point. I don't know why anybody would blink twice if you're, he got you this far. Bryce Young, look, 2 QB leagues, super flex leagues. He's been fantastic. If you've been starting him, better part of the last month. And I mean, Tampa Bay's defense, as we know, not exactly the toughest of matchups.
And probably winning enough to make sure that he gets to start again next year.
Oh, he should definitely get a chance to start next year.
And at running back, our top 5, Jonathan Taylor, Chuba Hubbard, Devon Achane, Saquon Barkley, and James Cook.
How about Devon Achane doing what he needed to do for our fantasy teams, not taking a knee?
Oh, yeah, that's right. Taking it all the way to the house at the end there. But finally, a good running game. It took them a while. They were not running the ball successfully early, but finally a good running game for the Miami Dolphins. Taylor, Chuba, Achane, Barkley, James Cook, they are who they are. It was kind of a chalky week, except for Hubbard, who Jamie already talked about. But Hubbard next week has the Bucks. Yeah, Bucks on the road. And wide receivers, we had Justin Jefferson, Keenan Allen. I don't know if you guys had anything that you were mad at yourself for. I think I said it to one of you guys, maybe off the air. I really wanted to start Keenan Allen over Garrett Wilson all week. I just had a feeling, and I didn't. I was too scared.
I started Garrett Wilson over Keenan Allen in the league.
I hate us, Heath. I hate both of us.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was excited for Keenan Allen today, and he's the number 2 wide receiver in fantasy right now. By the way, to the guy who dropped him in the podcast league last week, so Jamie could pick him up and play him against me this week. Thank you so much. Brian Thomas Jr. 3, Jameson Williams.
He's still easy.
I didn't win yet. Deebo Samuel and Olamide Zaccheaus. Does he matter?
I mean, their receiving core is not exactly the healthiest right now. Jameson Crowder caught 2 touchdowns. Zacchaeus caught 2 touchdowns. The way Jay and Daniels is playing right now, and they get the Falcons next week. Oh, revenge game.
Yes. But no, I don't think anyone's going to trust Zacchaeus. Top tight ends this week.
Wasn't Trey McBride.
Good grief. It was not.
It wasn't Travis
McBride.
Kelce. It was George Kittle, probably, right?
Brock Bowers, Okonkwo, George Kittle, Dalton Schultz, David Njoku, and Sam Laporta tied with David Njoku. Only 2 of those top 6, but 2 of them are tied for 5. Caught a touchdown. This is PPR scoring.
All next summer, I'm wearing a very thick rubber band, and I'm just going to snap myself every time I think about saying tight end might be good this year. What a disaster.
But Jamie, I asked Heath this, and he didn't seem so interested. With Tank Dell out, are you going to be interested in Dalton Schultz against the Ravens this week?
It's now 2 of his last 3. Wait, so 13 they played, 14 they're on a bye, 15 not so great, and this is 16. So 2 of his last 4 games, he's been good.
Also, 2 of his last 16.
Well, I mean,
well, okay. Now here are his fantasy points in his last 6 games: 9.6, 8.3, 4, 17.1, 3.3, and like 15 this week. So that is 8.3 or more PPR fantasy points for Dalton Schultz in 4 of his last 6 games. In 3 of his last 5 games now, he has, how many targets did he have? 7? Did he have at least 7 in this game? He had 8. So it's 7 or more targets in 3 of his last 4 or 5 games. And no Tank Dell.
So basically, he's in that stretch. He's outscored Travis Kelce, I think.
Yeah, probably.
And
I
mean, I look, you're going back to McBride. If you advance, you're not getting cute there. It's the people that like starting Pat Freiermuth and Jake Ferguson, who knows how this game will finish, and have to replace Kate Otten. Like, there are going to be people that need Dalton Schultz. So yes, it's not. Oh my God, I'm excited to start Dalton Schultz. It's, oh my God, I need to start Dalton Schultz. Like, we just told everybody to go pick up and start Brenton Strange.
Oh, yeah.
What I said on Express was if I have to make that choice, I'm choosing Chig against Jacksonville over Schultz against the Ravens.
Agreed. 100%.
I don't know if I agree with that. I just like Okonkwo's had 2 good games. I know they're his most recent.
So is Dalton
2.
Schultz.
Not really. He's had probably 4.
I would say the ceiling is higher for Chig. The floor is safer for Schultz. I would take the chance on the guy that's had 21 targets in his last 2 games.
But we're completely. I don't think you guys are factoring in the Tank Dell thing. Like, this is going to be the first time that he's playing with only
Mason
Nico
Rudolph
Collins.
just took over quarterback the last 2 games, and Okonkwo's blown up.
These are not the first games for Mason Rudolph. He had 3 games early in the year, and Chig did nothing.
And in those games, I believe one of those, Hopkins might have still been on the team.
I have no idea.
Also,
I don't think you're
did
factoring
nothing
in...
may be unfair considering you're counting 8-point games as good games for Dalton Schultz.
No Tank Dell.
I mean,
all right. We're going to take a break, come back and talk about the games. We'll go to Saturday's games. Remember them? After this on Fantasy Football Today.
The clock never stops. Relive the greatest moments with uninterrupted highlights and more.
It's Gareth Bale! Ronaldo! Wonderful goal!
On the UEFA Champions League channel. Streaming free.
By the way, if you lost today and you're out, you don't have any teams left, and you're still watching right now, let me know in the chat. I just want to know how many of you are just here for fun, because that's really cool. I think a lot of people would not even want to talk about fantasy football if they had been eliminated. So let me know. I'm curious. All right, Baltimore. Now, actually, we'll start with the Chiefs. Chiefs 27, Texans 19. And, yeah, a really nice game for Patrick Mahomes. But what we saw from Joe Mixon, 8.1 PPR fantasy points against the best run defense in football. Now he gets the Ravens in the fantasy championship. Are you guys going to be scared off of Joe Mixon now? 14 carries, 57 yards, 1 catch, 14 yards.
First off, kudos to you. You said he was potentially had a bad game, and you questioned us on our rankings of him. He's now fallen into RB2 range. I mean, it's he should benefit with Dell not being there with a couple additional catches and, Stroud getting the ball out quick. And the Ravens have struggled with pass catching running backs over the course of the season. So he's not a sit. But I don't think you should anticipate him being a league winner for you based on what's happened the last couple of games. Offensive lines let him down. They haven't been running the ball very well. Like this is a team you got to worry about in the playoffs. So your conversation with BMAC earlier, about who do you want to face? Like everybody wants to face the Texans right now, just based on how poorly they look.
And that's a big difference.
I'm gonna start mixing.
Yeah, well, that's the big difference between the Chiefs and the Ravens. The Chiefs give up the fewest receiving yards to running backs. The Ravens, the fourth most. So that's, that helps.
We just saw the Steelers running backs had 6 for 60 and a touchdown through the air against them.
Through the air. I don't know where the targets were in this game. I mean, like I was, I guess, quote unquote, right about Mixon for being nervous. I still started him in 2 leagues. I didn't have any choice, but he didn't really play that poorly, right? Like he looked pretty good.
They're struggling to run the ball. And so he's just not getting anything easy right now. And that's the problem,
Yeah.
So, and at a month ago, maybe, I don't know at what point, he was in conversation to be one of the best running backs of the season.
Yeah.
He was up there with, behind them, but, behind Barkley and Henry and those guys. And he's just slipped lately. And so part of that's been, I think he played hurt a little bit, got banged up in the Dolphins game. You're not sitting him unless you're just in a very good situation. So 10-team leagues, you might be able to. 12-team leagues, it's almost impossible to sit somebody like Joe Mixon.
All right, another question for this game. How do you guys feel about Dalton Schultz now with Tank? No. Let's go to the Chiefs. Can't really trust the running back here, unfortunately.
It's funny that like we spent the whole time that Pacheco was hurt, you trashing for Kareem Hunt for being such a bad running back, and now he's actually better than Isaiah Pacheco. I'm probably going to rank Hunt higher next week.
I did already, yeah.
And then we've got the receiving core. I mean, Xavier Worthy's coming on strong here. Marquise Brown barely played and got 8 targets. Mm-hmm. Who's trusting a Chiefs receiver next week? And who's trusting Travis Kelce next week?
Again, I'm not benching Travis Kelce for Dalton Schultz. So if you have or Okonkwo, I just don't think I could do that. I'm sure he's probably feeling the same way. He looks old. I mean, he really does.
Okay, wait, time out. Are we worried about old man Kelce playing his 3rd game in like 10 days or whatever it is?
He's not been good in the first 2. So yes, we're worried about him. We're still starting him. It sucks. This is a good time to tell people, like, I think it was smart if people changed their waiver wire nights to Wednesday night. You got to go fix that for this week. Like waivers have got to run before the Christmas games.
Call, yeah.
Yeah. Holy cow. Oh my gosh.
Go change waivers if your waivers run on Wednesday. And because like you're talking about this game that's next week, and it's closer to us than the Thursday night game from last week.
Yeah, somebody remind me tomorrow, please, because all my leagues run waivers on Wednesday. I think Xavier Worthy's been fantastic for like 3 weeks now, and feels like he's the safest of the group. But Marquise Brown is definitely worth picking up. And so if you're stuck, I don't know how many people are going to want to start him, but if you're stuck, like.
Yeah. Super low ADOT for Marquise Brown, just kind of a short area target, but a bunch of catches. All right, that's enough of that game. Let me just say,
you can't trust Hopkins.
Let me just tell you what's going to happen in Jamie's leagues. Okay. He's going to change it to Tuesday. And that's the end of the season. He's going to forget that he changed it to Tuesday. Next year, week 1, he's going to forget to do his waivers because he's going to think he's going to forget to put his own waiver claims. And he's going to think, I got till Wednesday night. No problem. They're all going to run on Tuesday.
I promise you that will not happen, Mr. Darnell Mooney.
All right. Baltimore 34, Pittsburgh 27.
And if I do, I'll tell everybody, unlike you, who just decided on a whim, I'm just going to run waivers today.
No, that's not what happened. I don't know exactly what happened, but it wasn't.
Oh, yeah. You don't know what happened. Just miraculously.
All right. Anything to say about
I think this offseason you should give me Darnell Mooney.
About the Ravens? Ravens and Steelers. Flowers was good. Yeah, they did. Flowers was good. 100 yards for him.
Yeah.
Flowers was good. I wonder what they do with their second running back. Is their pass catching running back? Because I'd be surprised if Justice Hill, after that nasty hit that he took, is able to play. So is it Ali? Is it going to be Keaton Mitchell? Is it going to be just more Derrick Henry? Does it matter?
Yeah. All right. And then Mark Andrews caught a touchdown for the first time against Pittsburgh, and for the first time ever, he has a touchdown in 4 straight games. Nice job, Mark Andrews. Rams 19, Jets 9. What is your confidence level in Breece Hall? 14 carries for 52 yards, 5 catches for 38 yards against the Bills next week.
So I said earlier this week that I had to decide between Breece Hall and Devontae Smith and Keenan Allen this week in a league. And I think now next week I have to decide between Garrett Wilson and Keenan Allen and Jordan Addison, because my Breece Hall faith is higher than my Garrett Wilson faith.
Okay. Is it higher than your Keenan Allen faith?
I don't know who they're playing.
They are playing
San Francisco?
No.
No.
That's Detroit.
Oh, one of the teams. Oh, Seattle.
Yeah. We'll see what the
I'm
weather's
starting Keenan Allen over those guys.
Okay.
I think in terms of Breece Hall, almost like a similar range of Joe Mixon. Like, he's just a number 2 running back at this point. This offense just doesn't produce a lot of rushing yards right now. Remember, he struggled against Jacksonville. You got lucky with the touchdown.
Yeah.
Thank God he was involved in the passing game today.
Right.
Yeah.
I get it's a huge deal compared to the prior weeks was that he had 14 of 19 running back rush attempts. So like the clear running back rusher, and he had 6 of 7 running back targets. So the clear guy they're using the passing game as well.
Did Isaiah Davis play?
Yeah, he had 3
Yes.
carries. And all right, we talked about Garrett Wilson. I can't imagine we're going to be picking up Tyler Higbee. Tyler Conklin, though, has got 5 or more targets in 3 straight games. But no, we're not going to be picking them up. Detroit 34, Chicago 17. Great game for Jared Goff. Jahmyr Gibbs was great as we expected. Just terrific game for the 49ers. And then Jamie, good call on Caleb Williams. You liked him a lot. I think you had him in your top 10. Scored 26 points. And he gets Seattle next week.
And got a first half touchdown, no less.
Yeah.
So with the way Keenan Allen's playing right now, DJ Moore was solid. Cole Kmet, whatever, scored a touchdown. I just think Caleb Williams, you kind of know what you're getting. Like, he's going to give you some garbage time production. He's going to run around a little bit. He's not safe, but this was a good matchup. I don't think Detroit's defense is good right now, clearly. So I'm not going to be as excited about him next week that I was this week, but I'll still consider him a starter.
Can't you just kind of put Kyler and Caleb and Anthony Richardson in a hat, and like one of them's probably going to be awesome each week and one of them's going to be terrible? This week they were all good, but they're all kind of the same guy, it feels like.
This week they all had good matchups, though.
Yeah.
And I was told today that Caleb Williams leads all rookie quarterbacks in passing yards, I believe. Is that surprising? I think he's ahead of Dan. It might not be. It's very close. They're all pretty close to each other. DeAndre Swift with a bad game.
Sam Laporta scored his first touchdown outside.
He's 1 for 7. Yeah.
So Swift next week against Seattle. Yay or nay?
No.
Nay, if possible. Like, Mixon's still better. Breece Hall's still better. He's better than Patrick Taylor. He's better than who else have we talked about?
Well, he's better than like Madison and Abdullah. I would maybe not
No,
Abdullah.
I don't know if he is. They get the same.
I can't deal with. He stinks.
Yeah,
and
but they get the
Abdullah is
same
so
stuff.
much better. What's that? Against
They
the
get the same
Saints? Ugh. All right. Colts 38, Titans 30. Faith in Calvin Ridley. 3 catches, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Got most of it on one play. Only 5 targets. And he'll get the Jaguars next week.
He already had this revenge game once, and he stunk, but that was with Levis. So I think you just consider him a number 3 receiver.
Yep.
So does anybody have anything else to say about Tajay Spears / Tony Pollard? I have something in my eye.
He didn't even have a good day as a rusher, Spears. He just scored the 2 touchdowns. I think if you think the Titans are going to get blown out, then Spears has a chance to have a good day. But if you think it's going to be competitive, then Pollard does.
It's almost like I don't want to say it's a poor man's version. It's just a similar version of the Steelers. Like,
Yep.
Pollard and Najee are similar. Warren and Spears are similar.
If you had Tony Pollard and Josh Downs next week, Pollard against Jacksonville, Downs at the Giants. Who you start?
Probably
Pollard.
Pollard.
All right, you did get a touchdown from Josh Downs today, so nice work, Josh Downs. 3 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown on 4 targets. Cincinnati 24, Cleveland.
And again,
6.
just to go back to this, if Pollard is out, because he's probably not going to practice again, Spears is a top 15 running back. Like, I'd start him over Mixon and Brees Hall.
All right, now Jerome Ford was an easier call this week because he had the Bengals and they are so bad, but he gets the Dolphins in Week 17. What are you thinking about Jerome Ford?
I will still start him as a number 2 running back, but I will rank him lower than I did this week.
But higher than DeAndre Swift.
Yes.
5 catches. Very nice for Jerome Ford as well.
And that's, I think, a staple because DTR will throw it to him.
Yes, he averages right around 4 catches per game in 3 games with Dorian Thompson-Robinson last year. And David Njoku, 8 for 66 on 10 targets. It's basically, he just throws to Njoku and Jerome Ford. And it's kind of like what he did last year. All right, for the Bengals, they are the Bengals. We know exactly what to do with them. But Chase versus Surtain next week. I know I'm not going to ask you if start or sit or anything, but it's cool. It's cool to see the best receiver in football this year against the best cornerback, right?
I wonder if he'll travel in the slot with him when Chase goes in there. Or does they just stick him on Higgins?
When he's in the slot, you mean? When Chase is in the slot?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good question. I thought about that. Based on history, you'll probably follow him in the slot sometimes. Carolina 36, Arizona 30. Man.
That's the game of the week, right? Broncos.
No, Eagles. I think.
Eagles.
Oh. I'm sorry. I thought you were calling Carolina, Arizona the game of this current week.
No. Broncos, Bengals, week
17.
17.
I think for last week you had the Dolphins 49. This week you had the Dolphins 49ers
he
was
changed
your
it.
game of the week.
I changed it. I changed it to latrine. Carolina 36. Jamie, you get that one?
No.
That's Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Oh, no, I wouldn't.
You changed it to latrine? Yeah. Then I can't say the rest of the word. It's a good change. All right, anyway, Kyler, what am I supposed to make of Kyler and Marvin Harrison right now? I know, again, Kyler at 22 points, but what on earth? And they got the Rams next week.
Marvin Harrison, 2 back-to-back drops on one drive. Like, he's struggling. He's going to be an interesting one to rank next year because they don't do him a lot of favors with how they line him up and not a lot of motion, and they don't give him some easy throws. Kyler misses easy throws. It's going to be a tough one. Like, you wonder if we were redrafting rookie drafts right now. Is he the 4th receiver
Behind McConkey?
behind McConkey, Thomas, and Neighbors?
Yeah. He's not going to be higher than 3rd for most people, but
No.
yeah, fourth would
No,
be.
Thomas is 1.
See, here's the thing about that. All right, we talked about it on Beyond the Box Score. There's a very simple comparison for Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., right? Like, they were on the same team last year at LSU, and Neighbors was much better. So
But Thomas was a baby, though. Like, he's just getting better.
I still feel like Neighbors. I don't think you're wrong to take Thomas over him, but I don't think it's an easy call by any means.
Who's going to be throwing to Neighbors next year?
Cam Ward is going to be thrown to Neighbors.
Is that what you want? Ward over Sanders?
You want Ward over Sanders?
Do I don't know. I don't know.
You're a
yet.
homer.
Apparently, the Giants want Ward over Sanders
Oh,
based
God.
on some early reports. But nice catch.
Yeah, you
All
want to trust Joe Shane right now.
It's not. I don't know if it's gonna be him. Okay, Chuba with the big game. Thielen. That was a nice bounce back for Adam Thielen, guys.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a weird show. I'm not gonna lie. This is a weird show. We can't sit here and talk about rest of season value and stuff like that. I don't want to just do a start or sit episode. So,
Yeah, it's been great.
You're
doing a nice job.
I'm going to ask you this. We're going to change it up a little bit. Washington 36, Philadelphia 33. I'm going to ask you what surprised you about each game. What surprised you about this Commanders-Eagles game?
There's really not much you could say, I think, with the Eagles because they lose Jalen Hurts early in that game.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it was, first of all, Marshawn Lattimore. What happened to him? I mean, A.J. Brown was beating him all over the field, and he was just grabbing and pass interference on almost every play. It was terrible. AJ Brown's just a stud. Devontae Smith, huge drop. That was bad. But yeah, look, you come back next week. If Hurts plays, you're right back to the same guys. And if Hurts doesn't play, I think it's just AJ Brown. You can't start Devontae Smith.
So I think what surprised me was probably Olamide Zaccheaus scoring 24 fantasy points.
What surprised me was how bad Brian Robinson was. We got to talk about that. He scored 1 point. He had 2 fumbles. He's limping to the finish line as a fantasy.
Yeah, McNichols was in the end quite a bit.
Yeah, it was bad for him.
How much fun is Jane Daniels going to be next year?
Oh man, he's gonna be awesome. Just like C.J. Stroud and Anthony Richardson.
Stop.
All right, next game.
You need to apologize for that one.
You should have said just like Daniel Jones.
Why?
Remember how good he was as a rookie?
Not this good. All right, Atlanta 34, Giants 7. What surprised you in this game?
Penix was not great. Giants were great for the opposing defense. There's going to be a fun one next week. I picked up the Colts in a bunch of leagues, with the hope of advancing, and I'm going to start them. But
yeah, you should.
They gave up 30 points to Mason Rudolph.
I mean, I was surprised that Drew Lock threw 3 touchdown passes and Michael Penix threw 0.
It took me a second there. Well, what do you think about London and Mooney with Penix?
Yes, there we go.
Yeah, start of
the week, baby. I think Mooney did great.
Yeah, Mooney was good. And yeah, look, Penix wasn't great, but I guess he was good enough. I threw 27.
It's hard to critique.
Yeah, they got one of the big games next week. They got Washington on Sunday night.
Huge game.
And are we going to be starting Darnell Mooney? Or would you start Mooney or Malik Neighbors?
Neighbors against the Colts? I'd probably still go back to Neighbors, but
yeah, Neighbors for sure.
Neighbors has been awful other than garbage time.
What are you talking about?
Other than garbage time. time.
Okay. He had another 13 or 14 point game, didn't he?
Yeah. He had 13 points.
He's a must start wide receiver.
That does not make you a must start wide receiver.
Sure it does.
It's like his ceiling,
when that's your bad week.
But that's his every week, except for last week.
Also, I was expecting a huge game today against Falcons.
Yeah, right? I mean, it's every week he has an amazing matchup, and every week he scores 14 points. Great stuff, Malik.
It's nice to have a little bit of stability in your lineup.
Yeah, Kyle Pitts threw an interception today, basically. Las Vegas 19, Jacksonville 14.
How did the Raiders win this game? It just makes me so mad to watch this happen. If I'm Tom Brady, I would have called everybody and fired him right now.
What's the difference? They're gonna get Shedeur at 2.
Then they got lucky that the Giants made a stupid mistake.
Or they're both stupid because neither of these quarterbacks should be taken with a top 2 pick.
I don't think the Raiders have the second pick right now.
Oh,
yeah, they fell behind Jacksonville.
Oh, well, okay. Jacksonville's not taking a quarterback.
No, but see, this is what actually smart by Jacksonville. They lose the game, and then now they could force the Raiders to trade up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They totally took the Raiders there. All right, let's talk about the Raiders running backs, 2 of the more popular waiver wire plays here. And you had Amir Abdullah, 7 carries, 38 yards and a touchdown, 5 catches, 47 yards. Alexander Madison, 12 carries, 27 yards and a touchdown, 4 catches, 29 yards. It kind of felt to me like Abdullah started to take over as the lead guy as the game went on, because Madison was just so bad. I don't know if that's true. It's just, as I was watching, it sort of felt that way. They are at New Orleans next week. Which running back would you prefer?
I'm going to go back to what I said at the start of the week, which is what I should have stuck with, is that Abdullah's better in PPR and Madison in non. Because, Abdullah scoring touchdowns. He catches touchdowns. I think this is, fluky to expect him to rush for scores when Madison's healthy. So, non-PPR, I'll start Madison. Full PPR, I'll go back to Abdullah.
I'll probably still have Madison just ahead of him, but they're both between RB25 and RB30 likely.
What about half PPR, Jamie?
Half PPR, I'll go Abdullah. Anything where receptions count, I'll go Abdullah.
What surprised you in this game, Adam? I forgot to ask you guys. I was surprised that Jacoby Myers had such a bad game. 2 catches, 41 yards on 5 targets. That's disappointing.
He struggled a little bit the last 2 weeks.
Well, last week was Ritter, though, right?
I mean, he was better with Ritter, but yeah, he struggled in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I was surprised that he struggled. Was not surprised that Brian Thomas Jr. had a great game because he always has a great game.
God, he's so good.
But every time you think you can trust the Jaguars running back, you can't.
Yeah.
So ETN outcarried by Tank Bigsby, even though Bigsby fumbled. All right, Minnesota 27, Seattle 24. Heath, what surprised you in this game?
DK Metcalf scored a touchdown, first time since week 7. I was surprised that until Ken Walker got hurt, Zach Charbonnet was basically just a bench player. Like they went.
We had people freaking out about the captain thing today.
He was. They named Charbonnet a captain, sent him out for the coin toss, and then sent him to the bench until the third quarter. Yeah, it was all Ken Walker. He had 8 catches in this game.
Tied a career high. Someone's asking, is Ken Walker's injury serious? The only thing I can tell you is he limped off the field, and then he was declared doubtful to return pretty quickly. So that's not a good sign. And we'll see what happens there. It's so frustrating that it took a DK Metcalf injury for them to realize that they needed to get the ball to JSN. It's just crazy.
Good.
He's been
We
on
were having
fire.
this conversation in the office, top 10 receivers in the NFL, not fantasy. And somebody suggested JSN, like when we were like down to receiver 8. We were at receiver 8. Like he's coming to that range. Like he's good. He's really good.
And we had a debate in the office, JSN or Jordan Addison. Who would you rather have? Not in fantasy. Who would you rather have?
JSN.
Dynasty, I had them coming into the week at wide receiver 13 and wide receiver 14. Addison 1 spot higher. I probably lean towards Addison, but they're both great.
And anything else in this game? Let's see. No, I don't think so. Justin Jefferson.
Charbonnet will be a league winner again if he starts. Like Bears next week. My God.
Buffalo 24, New England 21. Jamie, what surprised you in this game?
Josh Allen sucked.
Yeah. A lot surprised us.
By the way, kudos to you. Ravens win the division. Lamar Jackson may have gotten the MVP today.
Yeah. But I had switched to Allen, but now I'm back to Jackson.
But then I take back what I said. You can't.
Well, I'll tell you why. I had been on Jackson, and then I switched off of him because he had played pretty poorly against the Steelers and the Eagles. And I was like, look, if you're going to play your worst football against your toughest matchups, then you shouldn't win the MVP if it's close. But then he just went out and beat the Steelers. That's what he needed to do. He needed to beat the Steelers. Allen goes out and has a bad game. I'm back on Jackson now. What are the odds? Do we have updated MVP odds?
I'm sure
Yeah, I can get you those.
They had to win. They have to win the division, though.
They don't have. Who
They need
cares?
the Chiefs to beat the Steelers.
No, they have to win it. You can't.
They don't have to.
No,
You can't win you can't win the MVP.
What is this rule?
It's a rule.
It's not a rule. It's
This is
just
the
the
way
way
everybody
people are
knows
going to vote. You know, people vote for this, right? It's not like
Yeah.
you
So
have
I want
numbers
your
and you get the
MVP.
award.
I want your MVP. And I don't want the 75-year-old stuffy sports writer who goes, well, you have to win your division to win the
Why don't you
MVP.
just call the guy by his name. Jesus.
Okay.
I have no idea. I'm not talking about anybody.
So
Swear.
they do not currently, where I'm looking, Mr. Popinski says it's Allen at minus 600, Lamar at plus 425. I will
Give me
tell
a
you, I
break.
happened to stumble upon the NFL draft odds, and Shedeur Sanders is minus 125 right now. So
Yeah, that's nothing.
maybe he'll be a Giant.
God, I hope not. Okay.
Like week 4, Dion's complaining about the play calling. Week 7, Dion's
But
the new head coach.
I mean, the cool thing about it, though, is they'll keep Dayball and Shane if they draft Sanders.
Yeah.
Giants will suck. And then Dion will be your coach in 2026.
But then Arch Manning is going to be their quarterback.
No.
All right. Hunter Henry caught a touchdown. That was nice. He doesn't do that. That was at the very end of the game or close to it. And we need a bounce back week for the Bills offense next week, other than James Cook. And finally, Miami 29, San Francisco 17. Heath, what surprised you in this game? Dolphins-Niners.
I was surprised. I mean, there was lots of things. We've already talked about them, though. How bad Patrick Taylor was, how good Deebo Samuel was. But we haven't talked about this yet. And he scored a touchdown, so he kind of saved his day. I mean, Tyreek Hill might have dropped 20 fantasy points in this game, literally. Balls going between his hands over and over. He's caught 3 of 7 targets for 29 yards. Woof.
Oh, yeah.
He did have a touchdown that Charvarius Ward tipped away at the last second, which was a great play by him.
He had
That
another
ball-
one that went between his hands. He just didn't even see it.
Yeah. That was the kind of deep route up the left sideline. That was one of the best throws I've seen Tua make in a long time because he doesn't do that. He doesn't throw deep, and he threw it pretty deep to Tyreek. It was gorgeous right in the end zone, and I definitely did not act appropriately in the office when he dropped that ball.
Give us a reenactment.
No, that's okay. But it's fun.
You
Everyone's
got the bad words.
everyone's doing that around. I think I slammed my fist on the couch and I said a word that I shouldn't have said.
Heath, I'm going to give you receivers. You tell me Tyreek or this receiver next year.
Next year.
Thomas Jr. or Tyreek Hill.
Thomas.
I don't have any more names.
That was a good game.
What a game.
That was
Wow.
a good game.
JSN or Tyreek Hill.
Who'd you say? I'm sorry.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
JSN.
Jerry Jeudy with a quarterback.
Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
He'll
All
be
right, we're out
31.
of here. What'd you say?
He'll be 31.
I'll be taking a lot of Tyreek Hill next year.
Oh, at the right price, of course.
Late round 2.
Ooh.
No.
Everything I say now is going to change. We're going to do rankings next week. Or
That
2
happens
weeks.
between Sunday night and Tuesday morning for the rankings. It can happen for next year's rankings. It's
What-
okay.
Yeah, I
word-
know. But
What word did you say?
what do you think I said? I mean, come on.
Spell it with
Yeah.
the spell it.
GOODBYE. That's what I said. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Fantasy Football Today. Thanks, everyone.